Good afternoon. I'm Attorney General Eric Schneiderman, and I'm very proud to be here today with colleagues in government and folks who are actually implementing our land bank program on the ground. Your great Mayor Stephanie Miner, Assembly members Bill Magnarelli, Al Sturpey, and Sam Roberts. We're also joined by several members of the Syracuse Common Council, and the Deputy County Executive is with us today, Bill Fisher. We're also joined by the Executive Director of the Greater Syracuse Land Bank, Caitlin Wright, several board members of the Land Bank, and Carrie Quaglia, the Executive Director of Home Headquarters, which has done the actual work on this home. We're here today to take a look at something we've accomplished, which is the rehabilitation of this house, which someone is about to close on tomorrow, and we're about to get this family into home ownership and help provide this community. And also to announce our renewed commitment to this important program of land banks that are funded by my office and really helping Syracuse and communities across the state that are struggling with the blight of vacant properties. And we are proud to say that we've seen a lot of leadership and a lot of great work coming out of the Greater Syracuse Land Bank. I am proud to support the work that you're doing and look forward to continuing to work with this land bank and land banks around the state. For those of you who don't know, land banks are nonprofit organizations that are affiliated with a local government. We have 10 now around New York State, and they acquire distressed or underutilized properties. They can rehab them so they can be sold as affordable housing, or if they're beyond repair, they can be demolished so the property can be put to some other use. Land banks are a great weapon against the blight of abandoned homes, which increase crime, lower property values, impose burdens on local governments who have to maintain them. And I'm very, very proud of the fact that we're rehabbing homes here in Syracuse and all across the state, although I think the Syracuse Greater Land Bank has really provided leadership in actually moving forward quickly with its programs. But this is something that gets this house and others back on the tax rolls and helps bring the whole community up. Little more than a year ago, I stood with Mayor Miner and others out on Oswego Street to announce the launch of the Land Bank program. We started with a commitment to fund land banks through a competitive application process to support their revitalization efforts. There was legislation passed allowing land banks to be formed. 10 land banks were allowed in the initial legislation, but there was no funding for them until we set up this program. When we started to settle cases with the banks, this all comes out of my role as the co-chair of the National Working Group to investigate and move forward on the problems created by the mortgage-backed securities that brought the economy down in 2008. And since that working group was started, announced by the President in the State of the Union in 2012, we've recovered more than $60 billion nationally, with more than $4 billion coming to New York. And we still have a lot of our work ahead of us, but I'm proud to say that we're beginning to actually see the concrete results of that funding. Here in Syracuse, we initially awarded $13 million in the first round of applications. Syracuse got the largest amount of money because their application was the best. $3 million was provided in the first round of funding, and our vision was that properties like this one would be that were drains on the surrounding community. They were bringing down the surrounding community to be renovated and resold as affordable housing, and that is exactly what has happened here with the hard work of many of the people who are here with us. The infusion of funds from our office enabled the land bank here to leverage our money and obtain an additional $3 million in private financing and $2 million in city and county support. And in its first year, the Greater Syracuse Land Bank has acquired over 400 properties, and I think about 60 of them have been resold to new owners and are back on the tax rolls. There's no question that this investment is badly needed. I think there are close to 1,800 vacant homes, or there were close to 1,800 vacant homes in the city of Syracuse. And this home was vacant, and others will talk about it in more detail, but it was abandoned by a real estate investment company years ago and it was foreclosed on by the City of Syracuse, and then the Land Bank and their partners have produced this result. It's a great place that a family is going to be proud to live in and proud to call home. And I think that the renovations here, to the extent you want to look around, this is exciting for me because I've never actually, the funds only really started to flow for these programs at the end of last year, beginning of this year. I'm now just starting to meet lots of homeowners who are kept in their homes through our legal services and housing counseling programs. This is the first time I've actually been inside one of the homes we rehabilitated, and it just is very, very gratifying, and it's a sign, an indication again, of how well the Greater Syracuse Land Bank is working. This is making a tangible difference, and it really represents the success of this entire venture, because I was the leader in advocating that we should have a working group investigate the banks and their conduct that created the crash of the housing market, and that as a result of these investigations, we're getting funds that we've obtained from the banks that are going back to help communities that were hurt by the crash of the housing market. We are announcing today, since we seem to announce all of the big things here in Syracuse,
as it should be,
that we are providing a second round of funding for land banks. There has been proposals submitted, and we have increased the amount of money that we committed initially. There was $7 million for the second round. We upped that to $20 million because the proposals were so good, but also because we succeeded in passing legislation this year in Albany that allow another 10 land banks to be set up. So we are now making another grant here. I think it's close to $1.9 million, and you are using the money to such good effect that I hope this process will continue, and I'm sure this process will continue. The Greater Syracuse Land Bank has an impressive record, and I think that they really should be able to, with this funding, demolish or take over another 60 or 70 properties in targeted neighborhoods on the south and west sides of Syracuse, and continue to renovate properties so they can be resold to first-time home buyers. Our grant also will support a side lot program, which will repurpose some vacant lots to preserve open space for the community and address other community priorities. We've won impressive victories, and we've done a good job of getting the money from the banks, but that doesn't do any good unless you are sure that it is spent wisely and effectively to help the people we represent. And here in Syracuse, I can state with confidence that this money is being spent wisely to help the people that we represent. So I look forward to seeing more great redevelopment projects like this one, and to visiting in more homes as they're rehabilitated. And with that, I'd like to introduce someone who has really been a leader in this effort and in many efforts, and is acknowledged for her statewide leadership. And really, the Greater Syracuse Land Bank, there's a reason I keep coming here to announce new things about the program. That's because you guys are doing such an outstanding job, and I do want to call statewide attention to the quality of the work that you're doing here. With that, your great Mayor, Stephanie Meyer.
thank you very much. Thank you. As the Attorney General mentioned, it was just about a year ago where we stood on Oswego Street to talk about some of the progress that we had made to date in the land bank. And at that time, I said to him, we will compete with anybody to get access to these funds, because we know that we have the best ideas and the best people implementing these. So I'm pleased to say that that was not just trash talk, but here in Syracuse, we are actually accomplishing all of those things. As we stand in this house today, I just want to give you all a sense of what brought us to this point. When I ran for office, and I know that all of us behind me who have run for office, particularly in the city of Syracuse, have had this similar experience, because I've talked with all of you about it. You walk on the streets, you knock on doors, and you talk to people in the neighborhoods about what they're really concerned about. And they will say to each and every one of us, that house on the corner that's been vacant, that's been abandoned, and I've called the city, and I've called, and I don't know what's going to happen, and it's been abandoned for 10 years, 12 years, and I mow the lawn, or my neighbors mow the lawn, but it's bringing our property values down, and somebody else is moving out because of it. When I came into office, I foolishly thought that would be really easy to just turn around. And what I realized is that it was a systemic failure. On our part, that there were a lot of causes to that systemic failure, and because there were a lot of causes, we were going to need a lot of people to help us to put in the solutions. So we went to the state legislature, and we asked Senator Valesky and Assemblyman Magnarelli to pass the land bank legislation for us to enable us to do that. And they did that. And then we went to people like Carrie Quaglia and Vito Shosholi and Jim Corbett, who was here, and said, please work with us on the board. And we went to the county and the county executive and Bill Fisher and said this would be much stronger if it's a city-county land bank. And everyone agreed. And they agreed to do all of this heavy lifting and hard work when there weren't cameras around, when there weren't people talking about it, because they understood how important this is. Because of the hard work that they have done, we have been able to compete and to win these awards time in and time again. And we are recognized across the state as being leaders in the land bank community and accomplishing things. And that should not be understated. We were able to do that because of the hard work of Caitlin Wright, who you will hear from, because of Vito Shosholi, because everybody is focused on the same thing, which is taking these deteriorated properties and putting them back in the hands of people who will care about them and making them assets for our neighborhoods, which makes us a stronger city. So I want to thank all of my partners, everybody who's in this room, particularly Attorney General Schneiderman, who takes all of the skills of his office and all the powers that he has and listens to what we need and figures out a way to get us what we need in order to make our city stronger, our neighborhood stronger, and our families stronger. So thank you, and I will once again say to you, we will compete and we will win every time you put this down in front of us because of the caliber of people and the quality of intellect and work ethic that we have across our community working on this very important mission, which is to put houses into people's hands who will make sure that they are performing assets for our entire city. So thank you, and you are welcome anytime you bring a check.
Thank you. Thank you, I think. No, that your mayor has got the energy and that sense of competitiveness and wanting to do better for Syracuse. That's what drives a lot of good programs here that I give us confidence that the city of Syracuse is on the way to rebound. I'm also joined by, as I mentioned, 3 of my colleagues from the State Assembly who did, in fact, pass the land bank legislation and have passed this past session bill to expand the number of land banks. And I'm hoping we're going to be able to, next session, pass the zombie properties bill, which I guess you guys did pass, but it didn't pass in the Senate. The building next door is a zombie property, and we can speak more about that later, but I look forward to coming back at some point when we've rehabilitated that house too. So speaking on behalf of my colleagues in the legislature, Assemblymember Bill Nagarelli.
Thank you, Attorney General. And I was with you on Oswego Street about a year ago, and very happy to be there, very happy to be here today. And as the mayor said, keep doing what you're doing and bringing us the money that we need to change neighborhoods. The mayor mentioned earlier that anyone who has run for a city office in the city of Syracuse understands how important neighborhoods are. And to be in the Valley, which is one of the neighborhoods in my district, you can see how very important it is to make sure that the housing stock in this area is allowed to stay vibrant and have people living in it and having people taking care of their neighborhoods. That's what the city is all about. So whatever we can do on the state level, and I've been involved with the land bank since the legislation was thought up, and I think Sam Hoyt was one of the big promoters in the Assembly in the beginning, and then went on to do regional economic development, which is a good thing too. We like that. But I will continue to be a proponent for land banks because I do know that they work. I want to commend the Attorney General on his efforts in making sure that monies he is able to get back from those that have wronged our neighborhoods one way or another gets back to us and gets back to the city. I'd also like to thank Mayor Miner and her staff. The mayor has done a great job, as far as I'm concerned, with the land banks. And with her whole attitude and plan as far as neighborhoods are concerned. I want to commend her and everybody that's working on the land banks in the city of Syracuse. And with that, I want to say thank you for all being here. Again, I love to see all these people in my district. You can come back anytime. And now it's time for me to turn it over to Caitlin, our director of the land banks.
Thank you all for being here today. This is very exciting for us. We were thrilled last year to get the largest award of any land bank in New York State, and that has enabled us to really charge forward boldly with the mission that we've been tasked with. The city and the county, as Mayor Miner described, saw that there was a dramatic need to do something about these vacant buildings in our communities that are attracting crime, reducing property values, negatively impacting the way people feel about their neighborhoods. And that's our mission, is to take vacant properties and to get them back into productive use. We're projected to do that with about 2,000 properties over the next few years. It's a very ambitious goal. And as many of you know, most of our properties are what you might call fixer-uppers. And grant funds like this enable us to partner with Home Headquarters, who's really the local expert in home remodeling and affordable housing development, and make them available as a move-in ready product. This home is going to be sold tomorrow. The new owner is getting the keys. A first-time home buyer and a single mother who's hard at work right now while we're all here. And we need to develop more move-in ready homes like this to create those home ownership opportunities. So this is a really critical piece of what we do. And funding like this, where the state level and our local governments have really put their money where their mouth is enabling us to proceed with this really ambitious mission to continue forward and take over a few hundred more properties next year. So thank you very much, Attorney General.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you. It's great to be here. We work on a lot of challenging issues in government. It's great to be here to announce success and to provide the funding that I'm confident will bring more success in the next couple of years here with the Greater Syracuse Land Bank. And with that, we can take a few questions.
You can identify where you're from, video.
Sure, it's Time Warner Cable News. What's a zombie house?
Zombie properties are properties where a bank initiates a foreclosure proceeding. The homeowner leaves, but the bank has not completed the process, and there is no requirement now that the bank maintain the property. So the property, there's no one in it, and the properties fall into disrepair. The bank is going to get title to it eventually, but the zombie bill, property bill, will require them when there is a vacant property and they have actual information, not asking them to read minds, but they know someone is left the property and foreclosure proceedings are underway, that the bank has an obligation to maintain them. We also are putting in some of these settlement agreements. We've been very creative. Some of the money comes in cash, some of it comes in a menu of consumer relief. And that house, I hope we're going to get in the near future, because Bank of America, which just settled with us for the largest settlement in American history, this is the work of the working group. This is a national focus. I think that the success in New York that I'm most proud of is that with our colleagues in government, we're making sure the money goes to where it's needed, communities that were hurt. But a zombie property is something that no one has an obligation to take care of. So it's something that is, and you can't buy it from the bank because they don't have title yet. So it's a very specific challenge. So we want to pass that legislation. But Bank of America has agreed to turn over to our land banks zombie properties that they hold, and to provide funding for each property to rehabilitate it. That's a part of the $16.65 billion settlement that I was able to negotiate with them. So I'm looking forward to passing the bill, and I'm looking forward to having more of the banks turn over those sorts of properties to us, unless they think they can speedily foreclose.
Mayor, how serious a problem is that in the city?
Well, I can tell you that there are other places around the state that it's more of a serious problem than it is here. It relates to the availability of capital and issues like that. But it is a problem, and any problem with housing and homes in neighborhoods, the detrimental impacts that it has far outshadows the numbers. So you can see, so we have a new family moving in here, and the first thing everybody else is going to say, okay, we took care of that property, now Mayor, what about this property? And the worst answer that you can give somebody is, well, my hands are tied because of government regulations or financial regulations. We need a solution. And so that what the zombie property bill will do will give us a solution. As I said, and talking to my colleagues, it's much more of a problem in places like Newburgh, but here, any problem is a problem that we want to solve.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Can you give us some perspective, I'm from Channel 9 Syracuse, some perspective on the other land banks across the state and how Syracuse stacks up? Are we doing more or less?
Syracuse got the most funding in the first round because they put in the best initial application. And I'd say other land banks are also doing good work. It varies from community to community. We now have 10 land banks, but certainly Greater Syracuse Land Bank continues to be ahead of the curve in terms of the time frame. As you've heard, we have folks in Syracuse who were involved in the process. My colleagues in government, the mayor and the assembly member were involved, and the state senator involved in the effort to create land banks in the first place. So this is a town, this is a community where people really were already focused on this issue when we came along with the funding. So you should be very proud of the fact that this land bank has been so successful, and I think it is, if not the best, certainly one of the best functioning land banks in the state. And some of the land banks have been started up more recently and have yet to really buy properties and get going. It's important to understand that the first funds for this project only started flowing in late 2012. The biggest settlements that my working group has gotten, including the two largest settlements in American history, $13 billion from JP Morgan Chase and $16.6 billion from Bank of America, this all happened in the last 12 months. So there is more money working its way through the system, and I think having success stories like this to show people just makes it easier to get further commitments and further funding.
Anything else?
This is the future, will we be back here next year? I mean, how long can you continue to be coming up with these grants?
Well, there's a lot of the money that's come out of the Citibank, JP Morgan Chase, and Bank of America settlement has yet to be spent. So there's going to be money coming in for a while. I can't comment on any ongoing investigations, but there will be money coming in.
Questions on any other topic?
Thank you
Thanks,
very much.
everyone.